James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George are all having the most efficient seasons of their careers, yet none of them are averaging ridiculous scoring numbers, and they look like a well-oiled machine on the offensive side of the ball as opposed to a team packed full of stars that doesn't actually have any concrete approach. This is arguably the most refined offense that we've seen from a team that's put multiple high-scoring stars on the same roster to the point that it's become borderline unstoppable. The Clippers have been the second best offense in the NBA over the last 15 games, putting up 124.8 points per 100 possessions and 112.8 points per 100 possessions in the half court. Before we can truly understand why the Clippers offense has become such a well-oiled machine, let's examine the backbone of their offense, the good old James Harden pick and roll. They don't really spam it quite as often as you might think, but it's available to them at any time when he's on the floor. Not only is James Harden having a career year in efficiency overall, but he's also shooting 47.4% from the field in the pick and roll and 46.9% from three as the pick and roll ball handler. At the start of this possession, Kawhi is going to come and ghost this screen on Okogie for Harden, and you can actually see Kevin Durant call out the switch. Now, Kawhi is going to pull Okogie with him away from the action while Daniel Tice comes up to screen for Harden. By having Kawhi ghost that initial screen to get Okogie off of Harden, it made Kevin Durant have to match up and guard Harden. And Kevin Durant's not a bad defender, but he's not as strong of a screen navigator as Okogie, which is the important thing. And so it allows Harden to get KD stuck on the screen behind the play, and it leaves Drew Eubanks in a drop in a 2-on-1 situation. And the weak help from Okogie doesn't really do anything to stop Harden from getting what he wants at the rim. Now on this pick and roll, the Suns actually do a pretty good job defending it by blitzing with Nurkic, which forces the Clippers to have to reset, but Zubac is going to set this flat screen, making it a little bit difficult for Booker to know which direction Harden's going to go, and once he gets Booker stuck behind him and Nurkic is in a 2-on-1, Harden makes the pocket pass. Now the wrinkle here is that Grayson Allen sinks in from the corner, but all that really does is leave Terrence Mann wide open in the corner for the shot. Now let's look at this one where Harden does the same thing, making the pocket pass to Zubac on the roll, and then finding Powell in the corner. Grayson Allen here does a good job closing out and preventing the initial three-point shot, but all Norm Powell does is take a dribble right into a mid-range pull-up with zero contest. On this play, the important thing to notice is the chemistry that Harden and Zubac have clearly developed in the pick and roll. They're going to look like they're setting up for a standard pick and roll, but Harden makes one cross, and Zubac knows to just skip the screen entirely and start rolling since Harden has Nurkic stuck in a drop. With Nurkic more focused on Harden, Zubac is going to slip right past him to get an easy finish off of the lob. This last pick and roll that we're going to look at, the Suns actually defended pretty well. Okogie funnels Harden into the drop, Allen sinks in to help on Zubac if Harden passes, and Nurkic has a good angle to cover anything inside the paint. The only problem is Gordon sinks off of the strong side corner, which leaves Terrence Mann open one pass away, and it turns what could have possibly been a 2-point play into an easy 3 for the Clippers. James Harden has the maximum amount of space available to work with as the pick and roll ball handler because if you help off of any guys like Kawhi Leonard or Paul George, it's going to be punished since Harden's going to have zero issue finding them when the defense sags off. Additionally, Harden is having one of the best off-ball seasons of his career, allowing Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to operate as the pick and roll ball handler on occasion as well, creating all sorts of issues for the defense trying to know when they need to help and when they need to stay home on their shooter. You can see on this play from the Raptors game, Harden's bringing the ball up the floor and Kawhi's going to call for the ball to get the post up. And the second that Harden makes that pass, Scottie Barnes is going to go trap. And I get what the Raptors are doing, trying to get someone like Kawhi to have to pass out of double teams and make quick decisions, but it resulted in James Harden getting a completely wide open look from three. On this play, Kawhi's going to drive on the closeout, and it's going to force Tim Hardaway Jr. to come in and provide that help. And Bones Highland is going to pull out to the top of the key. And notice James Harden flaring out to the weak side of the floor, and the off-ball movement gets Harden a wide open look from three. What is a defense supposed to do when James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard are all shooting 43% or higher from three off the catch? At that point, sagging off of any of them is going to be punished. On this possession against the Knicks, we see them actually use Harden as the screener for Terrence Mann with Randle on Kawhi, Barrett on Paul George, and Sims on Zubac. Mann gets into space on the drive to get to the rim, and Sims is going to slide over to contest, but Mann dumps it off to Zubac for the slam since Randle couldn't really risk helping off of Kawhi in the corner. Here, with Paul George as the ball handler, it's Quickly and Grimes covering Powell and Harden on the weak side, with Brunson on Mann on the other side of the floor. You don't really want to leave Harden or Powell open on the wing, but they need somebody to slide over to help if Tice gets the ball on the roll. So it's going to be Brunson that sinks in, and it leaves Terrence Mann wide open to get the pass and attack the closeout so that he can get to his spot and get the shot to fall. The defense ends up having to just pick their poison on who they want to leave open and live with the results. So we know that a team with James Harden and competent rim running big men is going to be good at pick and rolls. It's tried and true. We've seen it for years now. But what's interesting is that while we can see that they're one of the most efficient pick and roll teams in the NBA, they're actually towards the bottom of the league in pick and roll possessions per game. And that's because their offense is a lot more diverse than that. Let's start digging into some of the other major pieces of the Clippers offense, starting with this play called Motion Strong. Motion Strong is great if you have guys who can shoot coming off of pin downs or guys who can curl off of screens to attack the basket, and it also does a good job of creating mismatches. Let's see it in action here. Paul George and Zubac set the staggered screens, and Allen, who is initially on Paul George, is now on Mann, and Booker is now on Paul George. Once Mann curls off of the screen, then Paul George is going to get a pin down from Zubac, and with Mann's curl keeping Nurkic from closing out, Paul George is going to get a wide open look off of the pin down. In this variation, Paul George is going to get the staggered screens from Mann and Zubac, but instead of getting the pass, he's going to curl and Zubac is going to set the screen for Harden. Grayson Allen is going to overplay the screen to try and force him to reject it, but with Nurkic dropped, Harden's going to capitalize on the free space with an open three. Now this time it's Westbrook bringing the ball up, and Kawhi is the off-screen cutter. He comes up to get the ball, but KD fights through to close out on him and prevent the shot. Now once the action's over, Paul George is going to move to the weak side of the floor with Westbrook, and when they cross paths with one another, it creates some confusion between Booker, Gordon, and Allen, not really knowing who they're supposed to be covering, leaving Westbrook open to cut to the strong side dunker spot. Allen is going to come to guard him, and Westbrook is going to post up and back him down until Nurkic overhelps just a little bit, and then Westbrook just dumps it off to Zubac for the finish. On this one from their game against the Pelicans, they're going to do things a little bit differently, looking like they're going to run motion strong for Paul George, but instead Kawhi is going to flip and get a screen from Zubac so he can get the ball, flowing into the pick and roll now. There are two things to note on this one. CJ McCollum digging at the nail off of Harden, leaving him open up top, and then the roll by Zubac is going to cause Zion to sink way off of the corner, and it leaves Mann completely open for an easy catch and shoot three. Another set that you're going to see the Clippers run constantly is the double drag, also known as 77. It's two staggered screens, usually early in a possession, and it does a good job of generating advantages if the team has poor screen navigators or weak off-ball defenders. The Clippers get into it on this possession insanely high in the half court, forcing CJ McCollum to have to navigate back to Harden, but it keeps Zion away from the paint, and it gets Valanciunas backpedaling, trying to keep Harden away from the basket, and it's going to leave the pass to Zubac open, and he's going to slam it down off the roll. On this possession, the Clippers start with a stack out, with Paul George getting this down screen from Zubac at the elbow to get the ball from Harden. And then the fun part is that from there, the Clippers are going to roll into the 77 with Harden as the first screener, and the ensuing chaos generates enough space for Paul George to come off the screens so that he can get a good look from three. So at the beginning of the last possession, I mentioned something called stack out. On this possession, Dyson Daniels is going to be top blocking Kawhi because he's expecting that pin down at the elbow. So instead of coming up to get the pass or trying to fight through the defense, Kawhi just slips it and goes to the basket, leaving the pass over the top for him to get it near the basket, and he can capitalize on the opportunity. All of this isn't to say that the Clippers are bad in isolation and that they don't do it at all. As a matter of fact, they're the most isolation-heavy team in the NBA right now, but they're also one of the best isolation teams in the NBA. That's what really makes them such a nightmare of a team to defend. These guys are hard enough to guard as it is when defending them one-on-one, but now Ty Lue has them playing a diverse offense full of off-ball movement and half-court sets that maximize the strengths of their star players. Their isolation attempts are usually a direct result of the actions that they executed earlier, giving them a favorable mismatch, or they're a last resort when a possession breaks down. Most of the time, jamming a bunch of star players together and expecting them to take turns cooking over and over doesn't really work. But the big difference now is how the Clippers are playing within an unselfish system that allows guys to not have to work nearly as hard to get easy looks and put numbers on the board. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I would really appreciate it if you considered subscribing and leaving a like if you want to see more stuff like this. Shout out to all of my patrons for helping support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.